Yes. Okay, there we go.
Yesterday we were talking about faith. Human faith versus divine faith. Faith is putting trust in someone, usually someone with authority. If it's a human being you're putting trust in, that's human authority, or human faith. Human faith. If we're putting trust in God, it's divine faith. And human faith is of a different order. And why is that? Why would that be that way? Why would human faith be of a different order than divine faith? Because
isn't divine faith God and then human faith is humans? So
yes. So humans are not necessarily
equal to God.
Yeah, infallible. I mean, practically speaking, most of what we say, our knowledge is based upon faith. It's not based upon us having reasoned things out or experienced it. We say we know that there's a country on the other side of the world, China. Well, we're relying on other people's testimony for that. Most of us, anyway. Anyone ever been to China? I haven't been to China. So we're just relying on other people's authority for that. Right? We haven't seen it ourselves. We don't have personal knowledge of China. We just rely on what other people have told us. That's with most of our knowledge. We're relying on other people, having faith in, human faith in what they say. Anyone ever been to India? No. I'm going to India next March. I'm going to teach a course on married to Mother Teresa's nuns. Mother Teresa of Calcutta, Calcutta. For about 8 days, I teach a course on married to the nuns in Calcutta. And I have to get my visa, everything lined up. I'm looking forward to it. Different culture. So anyway, I kind of I don't know that there is a place in India. There's a place in Calcutta. But I'm having faith that people say it's there, and I'm going there. I have no personal knowledge of that. So when we say we know things, we just have basic things. It's kind of a thin line sometimes, one between the other. There's a famous Christian apologist who lived in the last century. His name is Gilbert Kenneth Chesterton. Anyone ever heard of him? Chesterton? He wrote a number of great books that helped me to really deepen my faith and become a priest eventually. And one was his autobiography. And he begins his book, I think the first chapter is called Hearsay Evidence. Hearsay is something you don't have personal knowledge of, but you're relying on someone else's testimony. Okay? And his point was that who his parents were, who he was relying on hearsay evidence. He had no personal knowledge that his parents were Mr. and Mrs. Chesterton. He was just told that by his parents. He had no DNA evidence to prove this, no scientific evidence. And it was an interesting way to begin a book, because his point was that most of our knowledge is we're relying on other people's knowledge and their authority and testimony. But divine faith is, as I wrote on the board yesterday, a freely willed assent of the mind. We're freely willing to assent with our minds to what God has revealed with the help of God's grace. That's what divine faith is. And there's a prayer that I want you to know, put to memory. It's a simple prayer, an act of faith prayer. Write it on the board. Act of faith. Maybe some of you have learned it when you were children. consequence. We'll pray this prayer in the beginning of class for 2 days and memorize. Help to memorize it. Okay? Oh God, I firmly believe all the truths. Make sure I get this right when I say it. All the truths, yeah, which Roman Catholic Church teaches because how would you think you complete that prayer? Just if you yes. Activate prayer. Oh God. Actually, it's oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God, I firmly believe all the truths which the Holy Catholic Church teaches because if you were going to make up a prayer, an act of faith prayer, how would you complete that sentence? Why would we believe all the truths that the Holy Catholic Church teaches? Because well, that's close. Because you, God, have revealed them. Who can neither deceive nor be deceived. So in other words, we're having faith in what the Holy Catholic Church teaches because God has revealed these things that the Church teaches, and God doesn't deceive us. We're relying on His divine authority. He's trustworthy. So we've discussed faith. Let's move to reason now. As I mentioned, this course is called Apologetics, but I like to title it also Faith and Reason. What is reason? What is reason? It is the mind in its function. God gave us a mind to use. Mind in its function of attaining truth. Another way of saying it, the mental process of attaining truth. That's what reason is. Next question. How are faith and reason related? This is a big, important question. This has been kind of one of the big questions in our world, in our culture, since the beginning of the scientific revolution. Since the scientific method became very popular. Are faith and reason opposed? If someone believes, are you not scientific? Necessarily? No. Actually, most of the, not most, but I think a good number of the, once the scientific method became accepted and used, it was people from the church that were using the scientific method. There are many good Catholics, Jesuit priests and others who are well known for their scientific discoveries. Mendel, you've heard of Mendel's law? He was a Catholic. The Big Bang Theory actually was put forward by a Jesuit priest. And there are whole books on this, how the church has really been behind science. The church has been not really because of the Galileo affair, but that's a false argument to use. Because at the time Galileo was proposing this vision of the universe with the sun at the center rather than the earth at the center, that wasn't proven scientifically. I mean, the church was saying, you can put this forward as a theory, but just don't say, I've got the answer. Well, that's what Galileo did. He discovered. He says, no, I know this is the truth. So they shut him up. They said, no, you can't say this because this was going against all of what Christians held. And they were thinking the earth was the center of the universe. And there are still some scientific calculations which could support that theory. But most of them support the heliocentric theory. But the church is opposed to science. That's a false accusation by many people. Well, it's unfair to say that of the church. Okay, we're not opposed to science, and faith and reason are not opposed. Okay? How are faith and reason related? They're complementary. Okay? With an E, complementary. Okay? Complementary, like I think complementary. They go hand in hand. Faith or reason in science, okay, it's science here too, scientific knowledge, if you think about it, coming from the standpoint of faith, it can't oppose the faith because the natural order God created, and the church is always open to discoveries, and the church doesn't make definitive statements on scientific facts. The church has never, for example, made a declaration on evolution, whether God brought about the human species from an evolutionary process. The church has never made a statement about that. What the church says is that we can't say that the human mind evolved from animals, because we have an intellect and free will. That took an act of God. You look at all the animals, none of them have a rational intellect, only we do. And evolution can't explain how we have a rational intellect. Now, when it comes to evolution, I personally don't believe it, because it's an unproven theory, speaking from science. Because the species, the links between the species have never been found 150 years after Darwin proposed this theory. And there are many holes in the theory. I think I'll talk about this later a little bit more, but the fact is that faith and reason are complementary. They're not opposed to each other. We're not talking about, if you're a person of faith, that we are anti-science.